Welcome to another weekly episode of Homeschool Moms Unfiltered. I am your host, Meagan, and my amazing co-host is...
Hi, I'm Amanda.
Hello, welcome. So we are thrilled you're here. If you're new to the podcast, you can expect casual conversation about parenting and homeschooling here. We do not polish ourselves to a shine and present our best selves. That might seem odd for a podcast, but we'd rather present the reality of homeschooling than a picture-perfect image that makes others feel like crap about themselves when they can't live up to it.
Right. And I mean, that's just it. Social media has become such a highlight reel. And even though we all know that, sometimes you still start to question, like, am I doing enough? Are my eye bags too big?
I have to tell you, because we talk about this often on the podcast, but we're in Aruba right now, which sounds so glamorous, but this is my husband's home country. And so we're here for 6 weeks. It's the low season. It's kind of quieter here and whatnot, but there are still tourists here, right? And so every day I get a bunch of work done or the kids take their online classes and then we go down to the beach multiple times. And it's funny because now it's to the point that my kids spot it and they pick it out and they're like, oh, Insta husband over there, you have to see, 20 minutes to get one photo to post on Instagram. Last week we had here a Saharan dust cloud, and so it wasn't bad weather. It was just like very hazy. And these
Yeah.
photos got posted as if it was like beautiful sun outside. It was not.
Yeah.
They'll be laying in the surf and then they stand up and look at the photo. Oh, okay, try it from this angle, or I'm going to move my head this way. It's just out of control. But anyway, we know it, but when you watch it day in and day out, I was dying the other day to like take a video that I could share and say, this is what we're talking about. But I couldn't
Yeah.
ethically do that, post someone else without I wouldn't anyway. But anyway, I digress. Continue. I thought it's just been so at the forefront for me over the last little bit that we go to the beach every day and stuff. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. No, it's so true. I mean, yeah, we don't do that here. I struggled. We did like a Be Real video just this past week on the doing the I'm bored on Instagram thing. And it took me like 4 attempts. And I specifically waited until my mom was in town visiting because she's a little bit better at catching a video. And even then it took 4 video attempts before it was like, okay, this has a random person in the background that like should not be there. And like, oh, that's got my kiddo in the background. And I don't use him, like full face in a lot of things. Just like all of this, like, okay, how about if we try this? How about if we, and like, oh, it was like, and truly, I mean, I talk like that, but we spent maybe 5 minutes on it. And I was like, okay, this is lame. Like, that's good enough. Let's go. Right. Like, I do not have the Instagram husband. Yeah. So anyway, all right. So yes, here we are. We're doing it. We're doing our best to keep it real. We do. We love homeschooling and we absolutely love spending our days with our kids. But we do aim for balance here. We want the good, the bad, the ugly about our lives here with you. The other thing that you can expect from us are secular progressive views. If you thought finding an unpolished view of homeschooling was a needle in a haystack, wait until you hear this. We are recording this episode in June, so we would like to wish you a happy Pride. We also believe that abortion is healthcare. We believe that speaking your mind isn't a reason for you to be disappeared from the street by masked individuals. We believe that climate change is real, the earth is round, gravity does in fact exist, and truly dinosaurs never actually interacted with human beings. And also, seriously, can you believe that we have reached a point in our society where stringing that whole run-on sentence together speaks volumes about our position? Like, how did we even get here?
It's completely unreal. And I think, like, beyond that, too, how do we get back from this? How do you put it back in the box? I don't even know. But anyway, I don't know what, if anything, becomes of us after we die, but wouldn't it be amazing to be a fly on the wall in a history class 100, 150, 200 years from now and see how all of this stuff gets unpacked in future classrooms? Like, I can't even imagine. But anyway, today we're going to be talking about word choices, specifically as they relate to educational and growth endeavors that affect our kids. We've explored this a little bit in other topics. We're kind of like nestled in while we're talking about other things, but today we're going to really dig. But first, as part of our keeping it real vibe here, we like to chat about our weeks. So how was your week, Amanda? Good? Shit show? Plugging along? How'd it go?
Yeah, as far as the homeschooling side of things go, it went pretty well because we had like our wrap up. We've talked about this before. We're part of one of those California homeschool charters. And we had our, like fifth grade promotion and stuff that week. So we didn't have to do too much. We did a fair amount of schoolwork the first half of the week. And then we phoned it in for the promotion and did, like a city tour and some things like that the second half of the week. Personally, my folks flew in for the fifth grade promotion. And I know if you're listening, you're like, oh, we didn't have those when I was a kid. That's absolutely true. We didn't have them when I was a kid either. But my folks are in the same neighborhood as my other two nephews. And so they go to all of their school things, right? They're in public school and they have all of these award things. They get awards every year. And then there's like the end of year thing, and they'll have a fifth grade promotion next year. And there's just like a lot of things. And my folks go to all of those. So they wanted to make a point of coming to this one thing that we had, which is great, right? I mean, anytime your folks can come in for something, the grandparents can show up, it's wonderful. For anyone who doesn't live close to their family, you know that even though it's wonderful to see them, there's like a lot that goes into it and things get like a little, so things were a little this week to the point that this morning I got up and I was like, I showed my parents off to the airport. They're on their way back home. All is well in the world. My family's like, okay, what are we doing? I'm like, we're going to have breakfast. We'll all have a nice breakfast together. And then I don't have much I have to do today. Like I'm going to get out the Homeschool Moms Unfiltered newsletter. And, I need to make sure I get that play date for the kiddo scheduled for this weekend. And yeah, I think that's all I have to do. And I got the newsletter out and I was feeling really accomplished. And then something popped up and I was like, oh shit, we're recording podcast in an hour. I haven't looked at what the topic even is for this week. I haven't done the reading. I haven't typed up any notes. Like, oh my gosh, how did I mess this up so badly? I was feeling so on top of things. And then suddenly everything came crashing down. So I'm here. I made it. We're an hour late because of me. So hopefully we get through everything. But I have notes. I'm ready to talk about this. I got my reading done. And, I don't know. There's always tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow will go more smooth.
There you go. Happens. So,
Yep.
no worries. The funny thing was I was in the pool and I had an hour. The last time I had checked my phone was 3 and we were going to record at 4. And so I was like, it hasn't been an hour, right? And so one of my kids was walking by and I go, what time is it? And he goes, 4. And I'm like, what? I go, like exactly 4? And he goes, well, 3:59. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I picked up my phone to message Amanda and be like, I'm going to need 10 minutes because I had just got out of the pool. And she was like, I need time. I'm running late. I'm like, no problem. I just got out of the pool. Yeah. Kind of worked out,
Yeah. There we go. So how's your week? You guys are in Aruba. Things are generally, this is kind of your chance to finally like slow down and sort out a whole bunch of things, right?
Yes, it's amazing. There's really, I mean, aside from going to the beach, there's not much to do here, which has been good because we've been on the go for a while. And so I read an amazing book this past week. Oh my gosh, I read this book, They Went Left. It is so good. I read a lot of World War II historical fiction, but this one starts at the end of the war. And so it's about displaced persons. And that is not as common of a topic in the World War II world. And the writing was just amazing. So if that's your genre, They Went Left, totally awesome. Yeah, so we've done that. We've done some beach days. I'm trying to think. We're at a beach house this weekend. My husband and his brother and a business partner, they all have, there's houses and stuff and they're all rented out here. And this one is available this weekend. And so we came here and I was teasing the kids that we were on a cross country road trip because it's on the other side of the island. And I was like, well, that is a cross country road trip, right? Like we have gone across the island. So yeah, so we're here for the weekend. It's, it's paradise. It is what it is, right? Here's the thing that goes back to the Instagram thing though. There is nothing here. So it's amazing to come and unplug and relax and vacation and stuff like that. But my daughter is going to a conference next week and in Washington State, and they messaged her kind of last minute and we're like, hey, can you bring these 2 pieces of clothing because she's going to participate in a fashion show and I needed her to have solid bases. And she was like, I needed to know this before I got to Aruba. There is nothing here. So yeah, last night we were out for dinner and I said to my sister-in-law, like, I need to figure out where to find this stuff. And she was like, ooh, let's see what we could do, you know?
Yeah.
So
We could fly to Colombia and
that's
go
pretty much what
shopping.
it is. Yeah, exactly. I know. That's pretty much the
Mhm.
option. So yeah, but you know, you look at pictures on Instagram, you're like, oh my gosh, and it is. It's gorgeous, right? The ocean is amazing and the weather is amazing and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, but yeah, I've been getting a lot of stuff done. We have some business to dos, some stuff that we've been trying to grow for Homeschool Moms Unfiltered, and with Amanda and I like gallivanting and homeschooling and doing all that kind of stuff. It just hasn't happened yet, and so I'm like, these 6 weeks, I'm doing it. I'm getting stuff done, so it feels good to be chipping away at the old to do list, which I like. So yeah. So it's good. All right. So back to our topic. So you have likely heard the quote or seen it online somewhere. The way we talk to our children becomes their inner voice. So essentially today we'll be going down the rabbit hole as it relates to our kids' strengths, struggles, and more. Interestingly enough, have you ever seen that quote online, Amanda, like floating around?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine you're online and you haven't seen it at least a few times.
Right. So, I mean, I had seen it all over the place, but I had never figured out who it was attributed to. A lot of times you just see it kind of on a pretty canvas slide that somebody splashes on social media, and that's about it. So that was a rabbit hole in and of itself for me as we prepared for this episode. The woman who said that is Peggy O'Mara, and she founded Mothering Magazine in 1980. And the title Mothering Magazine gave me a little bit of a Duggar vibe. And we are a secular and progressive podcast. So we typically like to know who we're quoting on the show and what their values are. I mean, we've sometimes used a quote or a thought that comes from somebody that we aren't huge fans of, but we've kind of said, like, hey, even a broken clock is right twice a day. But I was pleasantly surprised. I do not have Twitter/X, but my boys do because there's a lot of Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh stuff on there. And so I was like, Liam, I need your phone. I have to look at this lady's Twitter feed because it was like the first thing that came up when I Googled her. And she is wildly progressive, like loud and proud. And I was like, oh, go Peggy.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, it's that thing, right? Like you were saying, especially for someone who is so widely known and respected in the field of shaping future generations. So often it feels like the voices that get the most amplified, right, when it comes to just kind of parenting in general are like pretty conservative and usually like fairly religious, right? So it's nice to know that she isn't, right? Like progressive, yay. Okay, so all that said, right, this is not a huge quantum leap to imagine that if you lift your kids up instead of tearing them down, they'll have better mental health. Oh, they'll probably do better academically and like just all of those things, right? So much more. But we do love a good study around here. We're not going to lie. And there are plenty of studies out there that say just this. One person who has lots of great research and quotes and things, his name is Professor. I'm going to butcher it, but I looked it up. So hopefully I get close.
Okay, hold on. Can I tell you?
Yeah.
I know this one because this was on the short list for my baby names. I wanted to name Aiden
Oh,
this.
okay.
Specifically after a bartender that I met, and it was a pretty fun night. And I was like, "What's your name?" And I loved his name, and I was like, "I'm adding that to my short list. I really love this name." So, but you do have the pronunciation. I see your phonetic spelling there, and you've got it. What? Yes.
Okay. So someone else said his name for an interview online, and they said it's something close to Eamon McCroy. So it's something close to that. Okay. He is a clinical psychologist, chief executive of the mental health charity Anna Freud, and a professor of developmental neuroscience at University College London. So lots of great stuff out there. And he has this quote. It says, as children, we believe what we are told, deeply folding the words of adults into our understanding of ourselves and the world around us. When those words are hostile, demeaning, or humiliating, they can have lifelong consequences. He goes on to say they can profoundly shape our sense of self and whether we feel lovable and confident in navigating an unpredictable world. As a clinical psychologist, I see in my clients how childhood messages, both negative and positive, shape who they become. So, yeah, this guy, if you want to look it up, it's spelled Eamon, and then his last name is McCroy. Crory. He has loads of great talks and videos and like PowerPoint presentations and things like that online. This is totally like a rabbit hole you should go down if this sort of thing interests you at all.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, here's the deal. You talked about dehumanizing, and we are going to doubt that anybody who's wildly verbally abusing their child is showing up week in and week out to listen to our podcast to explore topics on parenting and education. Like those two things just don't seem to line up very well, right? So
Mhm.
today we're going to be looking at more of the subtle microaggressions, if you will, that we might not even realize we are using and maybe impacting our kids. So before we dive in, though, I am curious because I have a couple on my mind. Do you have any memories of things that were said during your formative education years that have stuck with you, Amanda? Things that were particularly negative?
I mean, kind of. For me, I have a bigger picture thing. So part of it is my own memory and part of it is family story about what happened. But when I was growing up, and we had our like the kindergarten readiness thing that you had to go to where they check to make sure you were ready for kindergarten. And I went, and I have always, apparently, even from a very young age, I'm this person, but I'm the person that I can talk to anyone. But when I show up in a new situation, I hang back and I look at what everyone else is doing and how everyone else is interacting. And then I decide my plan of action, like how I'm going to get in there. So apparently at kindergarten readiness, I did this and decided that instead of walking over the bridge, I was going to crawl over the bridge. And my grandma had already taught me how to read because spent my time with her. I wasn't in like daycare, preschool kind of thing, but I pretended like I didn't know how to read. And I also knew a fair bit of math. And so I was like, these kids, they're not where I'm at. So I'm going to pretend like I'm where they're at so that I like fit in or something, right? Like that early, like conformity business that happens in school. So I did this. And then kindergarten came along and it was a little bit of a rough year. My kindergarten teacher didn't exactly like me, but she really didn't like my mom. And there was this whole thing there. And she was very pro my so my mom and my biological father were divorced at the time, and she was very smitten apparently with my biological father, and he did not have full custody. It created this whole thing, and like it was a whole thing. But one of the things that came out of that was she had decided that I was in serious need of intervention, and that I actually had no business even being in a regular class. That I needed to be in the special education class, pretty much full stop. And it created, I mean, like, a challenging situation, and when the teacher has decided that you need to be in a separate class, not in the class with everyone else because you just can't keep up and follow along, right? Maybe some kids are like, "Let me prove you wrong," but a lot of kids are like, "Okay, well, that's what you said." And so it kind of became this big thing because my mom was like, You're wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. Like, she knows all of these things. She has all of these things. Like, what is going on?" So first grade came around and I had a wonderful first grade teacher. She recently passed. It was very sad. I kept in touch with her all of these years. But there was this one moment, right, in time where she wrote these like little postcards to all of her students, and they all had really nice messages. And she had this really nice message for me. And then a couple of days later in class, she said to me, "I can see the wheels turning in your head, and I know you're thinking really hard about it, and you're getting there, and I can't wait for you to actually get there." And it was just like that kernel, that was the first time for me as a kid because I had not been in any kind of school before kindergarten, and then I had such an atrocious experience in kindergarten. I will never forget the day that she said in front of the whole class that she could tell I was thinking and that I was about to get there. And for me, that was huge, and in hindsight, it's kind of sad that all the kid needed was for a teacher to say, "I can tell you're thinking and you've almost got the answer. You're about there." For me to be like, "Oh yeah, I'm not dumb and I can think. Like I can get that answer." Right. And I mean, for anyone who's hasn't listened before, right? I like ended up going into the gifted program and I was part of the honors college at my, like I the, there, but what that teacher said about me, that kindergarten teacher, it really made a big difference, and I needed a lot of support and encouragement to see that I wasn't that.
Hmm. Yeah, that's so sad.
Yeah, right? It's like it's crazy.
Yeah.
So you said you had some, what do you got?
I had two that were kind of just moments,
Okay.
but so one was later, one was in high school, and it was mandatory in high school that we take Latin, and then you could also take another language if you wanted to. And I just had this Latin teacher that was just brutal. And she just on the regular told me that I was absolute crap at languages. But it was like there was never encouragement. There was never an offer of assistance. I mean, I sat in that room every day for years just thinking like, what is going on here? Like I had no idea what was happening. And I'm not a stupid individual. Like I just somebody needed to explain it to me differently or frame something like I don't know, but it
Yeah.
was not going well, you know? And it spilled over. So I was also taking German, which was my choice language. So helpful. I mean, listen, if you're going to go out into the world, the two most helpful languages you could possibly take are German and Latin. I'm like,
Yes.
why didn't they choose Spanish or French? I have no idea. So yeah, and so it did. It affected like my confidence in general trying to learn other languages because on the regular it was, and sometimes it wasn't even words, but it was just like this look of like I'm not even going to bother with you. Yeah, not worth my time and energy because you have no idea what's going on. And I'm like, that's true, but it's for lack of try.
Yeah. Right.
That was one. The other one was in elementary school. And to your point, it was kind of like a mix of like, I don't even remember exactly what was said, but there was something said and it was kind of repeated over the years with my mom consistently trying to undo the damage or undo the message. But there was something said in elementary school about me not being an artist and not being able to create. And in fairness, the definition of art in elementary school is pretty much if you could color, paint, or draw. Like, there's not really other mediums of art that you're working with. Yeah. 80s. And yeah, it's true. I can't color, paint, or draw. But the reality is, I'm like the most wildly creative person. It's incredible. I mean, and I I had a bakery for years and did these massive cakes covered in fondant and decor and like all this. It's art, right? It's absolutely art. But because I couldn't color, paint, and draw, I was not creative. And so that seed was planted in my mom I just remember my mom for years being like, that teacher was so wrong. Do not listen to her. You are creative. And I was like, okay. And it's true. I am very creative, but in a very different sense. But because that wasn't the thing that was being measured or whatever, but just why say that? Like, who cares if I only draw stick figures or whatever it was at the time? Who cares? Right? It doesn't really matter. But yeah, it's true. Like those things can really stick in your brain for so long. And, this is an episode where every parent is listening and being like, oh, for sure, I'm screwing this up. No, you're like, well, just these little passing comments are making such a big difference. But,
And the thing is, listen, if you're listening to us, we all make mistakes. Okay. We have all said things that we're like, I should not have said that. Like, how many signs can I put up to undo what I said in a moment of frustration? Of like, you're never going to understand this. We know you're not a horrible person. We've talked about it before, right? There's no one out there who is a perfect parent.
Nope.
That's what we're here to talk about. Ways that we can do better and the reasons why we should.
yeah. So some of the times where this might be a thing, right? As we're talking about things that we've seen, things that we've heard, things that we might have said ourselves, all of this stuff is kind of subtext, right? So one of mine is you hear people talk about a kid being behind or struggling because it helps them explain the situation to another adult or because it suits an organizational system or a sorting system. This happens a lot in the public school system and in tutoring centers and things like that. We get it, right? You have to have your top tier, your middle tier, your kiddos that need extra help. But the language that is used around some of those things can be so damaging. So I've talked about before the fact that I worked for OutSchool in the marketing department for many years. And listen, we love OutSchool. Amanda and I both use OutSchool. They sponsor some of our gatherings on Patreon. We love OutSchool. It is a marketplace, though. And so you have thousands of teachers on there who are independent contractors. And because they're independent contractors, OutSchool is limited legally in what they can and cannot tell these teachers as far as how they can run their business because they're not employees of the company. So that is a thing. But this was like my biggest pet peeve. And it was funny. A huge part of my job when I worked there was talking to new parents who were new to OutSchool who were looking for class recommendations. And I would
Mhm.
never send out class recommendations with some of the labels that I would see in some of the class descriptions. Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
You're searching for that class in the class catalog, and there are like 100,000 classes in the class catalog. So,
Mhm.
mind you, there's filters to help you kind of sift through them. But you're looking for classes. Well, all the teachers that are teaching on OutSchool are trying to get their class to rise to the top of the search. It's the same as anything else. It's search engine
Yeah.
optimization.
Yeah.
And so they're putting
Algorithms.
they're putting keywords in there that they think are going to help get their classes up to the top. I get that. Okay. I am a teacher.
Mhm.
I get it. But every time you log into class, you see the class title. So if you sign your kid up for a class that is reading for struggling readers or remedial
Mhm.
math, I was flabbergasted the first time I saw remedial in the catalog. I'm like, why? Right? And I just think
Mhm.
about these kids. Imagine this kid is in reading for struggling readers, whether it's a group class or tutoring or something. And this week they had a great week. They had set a goal to read 2 chapters in their book and they were going to talk to their tutor about it when they come in the next week. And they're like, they show up and they're feeling pumped. And then they go to their enrollments tab. They click on the class to enter into class. And it's like reading for struggling readers. What a way to smack your kid in the face with their deficiencies, their insecurities, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I would never, in my mind, it shouldn't even be allowed. It should be a pro kid language site. We should be doing better for the kids that are on the site. But yeah, and I mean, I get it. The algorithm, I get it, but I'm not sacrificing my kids' mental health to suit the needs of the algorithm. There was a class one time that popped up when I was searching for stuff on there. And on the class image itself, there was this big stripe that ran across the center of the screen that said disabled learners welcome. And I was like,
Mhm.
well, the fuck, I hope so. Could you imagine the opposite of that statement? Disabled
Yeah.
learners
Right.
not welcome? That's basically what you're
Mhm.
saying is like that anything where that's not said means that those children aren't welcome. And it also kind of calls into question for me as the parent of an autistic child with moderate support needs, what are you classifying as disabled? And what is your viewpoint on the whole situation? Are you looking at this from a perspective of like, these kids will never be productive members of society and pay taxes kind of bullshit? Like, I'm going to go
Mhm.
another direction here. So, I mean, you and I have discussed the fact we're not averse to the word disabled in and of itself, but
Yep.
the use of it in that context is like, gag me with a spoon, right?
Right. Well, I mean, that's it. I will call myself disabled. I am, and I can talk about that and use that. But again, it's that thing like when other people slap it on you, it's like, well, what are you saying with that? There are lots of words in the human language that you can use for yourself, but other people shouldn't necessarily use for you. This is not new. It should not be controversial. If you're listening to us, that should not be something that gets your hackles up. If it does get your hackles up, you probably found the wrong podcast. So there we go. All right, we have more to talk about, but before we do that, we have some big exciting updates. Megan mentioned that she's got some downtime and our school year has wrapped up. So we've had some time to work on some things that we've been noodling and we're rolling some of them out. So one of our big changes that we're doing is in our Patreon group. Okay, so in general, we have this Patreon community. If you're not familiar with Patreon, it's kind of like Substack or some of those other ones that a lot of creators and people who are putting information out on the regular have. So we have one of those. And there are different membership levels. There's a free membership level where you get lots of different things and there's information and updates and stuff like that. Like I was saying, I just put out a newsletter and anyone, including free members, get the newsletter with lots of information and stuff like that. Then there are other levels. There's like a $5 level that says like, hey, I really appreciate what you're doing and I support you and, like keep putting it out. Here's like a little bit of encouragement for that. We appreciate your time and effort. There's a $7 level where you get our unit study each month at a discount. It's like 30% off buying it individually, separately. Then there's a VIP level and an all access level. And those levels give different amounts of live meetings every month. Okay. So now what matters is we are going to start moving our book club into a more interactive format. So we had been doing a podcast where you could just listen to us talk. Now we're going to start doing it over on Patreon, and it will have its own membership tier, but it will also be included for the all access people. It's a chance for you to come and actually join in the discussion. Now, you can read and join in on the discussion, or you don't have to read. You can still just come and listen to what we have to say and have an opinion about the things that we talk about, but get all of the kind of highs and lows without actually having to read. But in any event, we're going to start this transition to our kind of online interactive book club through Patreon in the fall. So starting in September, that's where you're going to be able to join us for actual like back and forth book club. We're pretty excited about it. Right now, there is a 20% annual membership discount deal that they're doing over on Patreon. So if you're interested in joining, it's probably a good time to go over there and sign up. But you could also do monthly if you just want to check it out and see what we're all about. You can sign up for the free account right now if that works better and you're kind of like, oh, I'm not really sure about everything. And then join us when we actually start rolling out the book club. We will be sure to let you know when those actually start. But in any event, we would love for you to come over and join us on Patreon.
Yeah, super exciting. And I forgot to put it in the notes for this section, but earlier today, I created a 90% off coupon code for your first month if you want to join during the monthly thing called Bookworm in celebration of book club moving over to Patreon. So yeah, come hang out with us. We'll have live meetings all summer. They won't be book club meetings, but we have a social and we have a homeschool ask me anything, and we have all kinds of stuff that goes on over there and some chats that go on and whatnot. So yeah, you can come hang out with us even before book club starts if you'd like to. And your first month will be 90% off with the code Bookworm. We'll put the link and the code and everything all down in the show notes today.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Yay, a 90% off coupon. It's been a little while since we had one, so that's fun.
Yeah.
All right. So one of the things that I want to talk about, if we're going to have a whole episode about pro-kid language, I think that it's really important. Let me back up just a second. This is not to say that you are being a bad parent, but a lot of parents forget this aspect of pro-kid language in my experience. And that is the idea of how we talk about societal expectations. Okay. So I'm talking about things like, oh, when you get married, maybe instead you say, if you decide to get married someday. Or you say something like, maybe someday, if you have kids, you'll know what it's like for blah, blah, blah. Not, well, when you have kids someday, you'll know how hard it is, or you'll know what this means, right? These ideas of we have these societal expectations that, like, well, you're going to just follow my footsteps. You're going to have kids, you're going to get married, or you're going to have, again, completely innocently, you say something like, oh, your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your husband or your wife, are you going to do that? Work to change it to something like, maybe if you have a partner someday, leave these things more open ended. Because so often, without thinking, we say, when you have kids, when you get married, when your wife does this. And look, the reality is, the vast majority of kids are going to be in heteronormative relationships in the future. Like, statistically, we know that. But not all of them. Not all kids are going to. And if that's the language you always use in your home, first off, you make it harder for your kid to come out to you if that's the situation in your own home.
Mm-hmm.
But second off, you're just creating this scenario where your kid thinks that heterosexual is normal. And we like things to be black and white. So your kid has said, okay, well, then this is normal. That means that anything else isn't normal. It's probably not okay. Maybe it's even wrong. And you didn't mean that. If you're listening to our podcast, you did not think that anything other than heterosexual is wrong, right? But it doesn't change the fact that kids like things in black and white. And so they made that leap on their own a lot of times. So if we're just careful about how we position these things, it can make such a big difference in creating this pro-kid language of you're going to figure out who you are and it's going to be okay, whatever that looks like. And whatever it looks like for your friends, whatever it looks like for just society as a whole, and just creating a much more open environment and situation in your home.
I totally agree with that. I love that.
Yeah. So I think kind of again along those same lines, and this can be a bit of a soapbox of mine. So I'm going to try not to like talk for the whole like 45 minutes or something. But we parents tend to care about some things more than we probably need to. So one example that came to mind was when your kids are getting dressed. So often, right, it starts out with like shoes on the wrong feet or pants backwards. And we're so used to being like, your pants are backwards. You want to turn those around? Or like, that's really not good for your feet. Can you please put your shoes on the correct feet? Like, switch them around. But as kids get older, we're walking this line of trying to teach life skills, like how to match colors and prints and what things go with each other. And in some ways, you're weaving in color theory of like, well, these are complementary. So you might wear this with this, right? And those kinds of things. But it's also important to remember that there's a time where you might want to say, "Hmm, you know, I wouldn't necessarily put those two patterns together. So, if you just grabbed two random things out of your drawer and threw them on, it might be a good idea to go change one of those into a solid color shirt or a solid color pair of pants. But if you picked those out to go together because you liked the look and the style, and you thought, like, this is me, this is what I want to rock, that's awesome. Right? Like this idea of remembering, yes, we can teach life skills. Yes, we can teach things, but our kids are developing, they're figuring out who they are. And we want to be careful to remember, like, I would I would maybe do this differently, but if you made this choice because it feels right for you, I totally support that. I'm just trying to figure out which is happening here. And it's okay to have those conversations, even with your littles.
Completely. I mean, and we've had that conversation in our house too. We're a very sarcastic household, and my kids are a little bit older. I think it's mainly my daughter because my boys don't really care so much. And she'll be like, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "I'm not going to lie to you." She'll be like, "Is this okay? Is this okay?" I'm like, "I'm not going to lie to you. If it really was like fit inappropriately or fit poorly or wasn't flattering in a way that I know you would not like to present your like, I'm going to tell you because
Mhm.
I don't want you to not trust me." Because I remember when I was a kid, my mom would tell me like everything was always, and I would say to my mother, "You're my mother. Of course, you're going to tell me I'm beautiful or it's perfect or whatever, you know?" And so I say to her, like, "No, if it's a way that I think later you're going to be like, I can't believe you let me leave the house like that." Like, no, I'll give you, you know, an honest opinion. You can still do it, right? I mean, you can, like you said, if that's what you want to like, go. But if you're asking me, I will give you an honest opinion of whether or not this whole situation is jiving or
Yeah, absolutely. I with my kiddo, sometimes we have this conversation and he'll be like, I didn't actually really pay attention. I was just getting dressed and this is what I put on. So I should change my shirt. And I'm like, yeah, I probably would. And he'll be like, what should I put on with these pants? You know, I'm like, that like just plain gray t-shirt, like that'd probably be great. Or that black one with the thing on the front, the logo, that'd be fine too. And he's like, oh, okay. And then every once in a while he'll be like, no, I actually like this and I wanted to wear this. And I'm like, cool. Love it. Great. Let's go then.
yeah,
Like that,
yeah. It's
go on with your bad self.
it takes a strong parent. I remember, I mean, I was in college and my best friend from growing up had a child when we were quite young. And so she had a toddler when we were in college. And she went through a phase where she was a dog named Scamp. And she would like start a howl in the neighborhood. She would just bark on the front porch and then all the other neighborhood dogs would start going. And I will never forget, we were at the supermarket one time and the guy from the deli went to hand her a slice of cheese. When they start cutting and they'll give the kids like the first slice or whatever. And she barked at him. Bless my friend. She was just like, it'll go away. She would want to lap her cereal out of a bowl instead of using a spoon. And she was like, it'll go away. The kid has a master's and she works for like the National Hurricane Center now. You know, I mean, it went away. She doesn't still think she's a dog. It's not like Fox News scaring people thinking kids want to be cats and whatnot. It's all good.
And again, it's that thing. Kids are not always going to be right. Pro kid language doesn't mean that you don't help guide and direct and redirect. It's about how you do it. It's about the language that you use in doing it. If you're like, why in the hell are you barking like a dog? For the love of God, stop it. Not pro kid language.
You know,
No,
that
I
like
feel like
grit and teeth thing. Have you ever seen when they catch Kate Middleton doing it? And like when she's talking to the kids and she can't, and she's like, if you don't stop it right now, like sometimes they catch her doing it in public.
yeah.
And I'm like, she's just momming. She's doing it just because she's a duchess or whatever she is. You know, I'm like,
Yeah, exactly. No, that's exactly it. And I think a couple of like kind of things to maybe write it on a post-it note and put it up on your bathroom mirror or stick it somewhere that you'll see on the regular. Some sayings or phrases that can help you remember this is like, I hadn't thought of that. I was thinking blah blah blah. When your kiddos and you're like, that you are so wrong, right? You're like, you're totally wrong, right? Like, no, I hadn't thought of that. I was thinking, and then you can share what you were thinking. And you can have a conversation about the two and compare and contrast them. But again, this idea of not shutting your kids down. Pro kid language is really just about making sure that whatever is happening, you're not shutting them down. You're not limiting where they're coming from because that's when you're going to start losing connection with your kids. And once you start losing the connection, you got a whole lot of other problems on your hands. So another one that I really like, so again, write it down somewhere that's helpful that you can reference it. I really like how you're problem solving this. What's something else we could try? Maybe blah, 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 whatever you were thinking. Again, this guiding and redirecting, right? Like, I really like how you're problem solving this. You might be thinking in your own head, like,
what the hell are you doing?
what were you thinking? What? That for work. What in what world did that seem like the right idea? Okay, but you're going to remember that you don't want to shut your kid down. So I really like how you're problem solving this. What's something else that we could try? Maybe and share your ideas.
Yeah, I like it. Oh my gosh, it's never a dull moment, is there? But the little
Thing is, I love kids, right? Like these moments. And the thing is, when you remember to redirect and you get through it afterwards, those are going to be the things that you're going to come into like the Patreon group and share and be like, OMG, my kid just tried to XYZ. We're going to be like, been there, done that. And these are the fun parenting moments.
yeah, it would be dull without them, right?
Mhm.
So the last one that I have for the day, and we kind of talked before about this idea that there are levels in learning, and sometimes it can be hard to categorize, especially if you have multiple kids, right? Or you've got a kid who quote unquote struggles with something, trying to verbalize that in a way that makes sense. But there's things that just kind of pop up where kids are struggling, and how you reframe that struggle and assist with that struggle can make all the difference between shutting down or moving forward gracefully. So I think we've probably all had a scenario where you're at the library and your kid pulls a book off the library shelf that is way not okay, whether it's content wise or maybe it's just super duper ahead of where they are in reading at that point in time. And it's like you have this split second to react and to make this decision. There was a book, I've talked about it before. It's not a secular book, like 100% not. So you have to read it. If you decide to read it, you have to read it and filter all the Jesus into your own language, right? So it's like, it's this book that talks about this child who's neurodivergent, and it's this whole like, well, God created this child and gave him to me and like all this stuff. So it's like, in my mind, in my world, I was like, this isn't an accident. The universe, there was a cosmic connection that this is my child and whatever, right? So if you can make that translation in your head, if it's the whole thing's going to trigger you, never read it. But it's by this family, this person, Sally Clarkson. I mean, they're like Jesus missionaries in Africa and stuff. Like they're hardcore Christians. But I did happen to read. But anyway, she talks about this one time her son did something and he had been working on it for days and keeping it a secret, and he was so proud of himself, and he called her down and she had this like, like, what the hell did you do? But she's like, I had a split second to not screw this up. And so it's kind of that same thing. You've got choices. You could bring the book home as a read aloud, provided that it's not like maybe your kid really likes like dragons and fairies, and it turns out that it's like dragon fairy smut. And you're like, okay, well, that we're not going to bring home for a read aloud, right? Maybe they were just attracted to the cover, and you're like, let's think again. But
cover.
yeah,
If we could make our own story to go with that cover.
okay, exactly. And then you like slip it into your own pile in the library.
Only if you're me with my reading taste, but yes.
Yeah, right. But let's say it's just a reading level issue. There's so many ways to be positive and encouraging and offering solutions, right? You could offer to do it as a read aloud. You could create a book list for the future or something like that. You could offer an alternative book that's got a similar storyline or whatever attracted them to that book. Maybe there's another one that they could do. Audiobook, I mean, is almost always a solution because then it's just listening to an amazing story. And it doesn't have to be like, well, that's a little hard for you to read, so let's get an audiobook. You can just say, I have heard that the audio on this one is fantastic. So why don't we listen to a sample when we get home and see if that's going to work? Because it could be a really cool option for our upcoming road trip to grandma's house or whatever, And then we could listen to it together and talk about it or something. So it's that pro kid twist in order to kind of create that thing.
Yeah, no, that's it exactly. If you listen to us on the regular, none of this is new. If you're just tuning in or you haven't been listening for very long, really what we're just talking about is this, again, this idea of making sure that you're keeping the line of communication open with your kids. And one of the best ways to do that is to reframe some of the things that we grew up with that did not keep the lines of communication open for us, and just trying to, that whole thing, when you know better, we can do better. And what are things that we can tweak? And again, none of us are getting it right 100% of the time. Okay. Absolutely. No one is. And if they're telling you that they are, they're a big, fat, stinking liar. Okay.
Yep, exactly. When you were just talking, it reminded me there's this social media trend going on right now where it's like sentences that we all heard growing up, maybe not necessarily from our own parents. And parents are asking their kids to fill it in. And it's like, I'll give you something to, and in our world, that was cry about, right? If the kid was crying, I'll give you something to cry about. You don't like what's happening, I'll make you cry. Or I brought you into this world, and they just leave it open and ask the kids to finish it. And of course, in our world, it was, I can take you out of it, right? I brought you into this world and I can take you out of it. I mean, how amazing is that we were raised with, I don't think my parents ever said that to me, but like that it was common enough that we all know how that sentence finishes, that there was this era of parenting that went on for generations before that, where your parents threatened to kill you. I mean, that's really what it is, right? I mean, it's not a serious threat, but what the heck is that? And it's so sweet because I just saw it. I've been seeing it online, but I just saw the one today from Mrs. Chang, the gifted teacher who lives in Atlanta with her kids. And I do. I love her. And she did it with her kids. And it's so sweet because the ones that are being posted, none of the kids get it right. And it was like, I'll give you something to, and the kids like, eat. They have no idea how these sentences were finished in the 80s and the 70s. And so it's like, we have come a long way in the world of pro kid language, which is awesome. I love that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you can see it in so many ways, right? And now a conservative's listening to this and they're like, yeah, that's why they're all those liberal snowflakes, right? But we know that this is why our kids are changing the world in the best possible way, right? Like these changes are what breaks generational trauma. It's what helps them go out and be the best version of themselves. It's what helps them not live a life in the closet because they think that's the only safe place they can be. There are so many reasons to embrace this, and we're doing it right, no matter what conservative dickheads say.
Exactly. That's pretty much how you do know you're doing it right. Right? If you're listening, okay, I'm on to something here. We're doing good. Yep. That's a barometer for success these days. So it works. Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, that just about wraps us up for today, but do not leave because we have another exciting announcement. Oh my goodness. Okay. We've been busy. Let me tell you, we have been busy. Okay, so I have talked in the past in previous episodes about trips that we've done. We have joined these world schooling pop-ups in Krakow, in Vienna, in Budapest. We did the prom maybe a month ago in Budapest. There was like 75, 100 teenagers on this riverboat dancing the night away, having the time of their lives. So it's through an organization called World Schooling Pop-Ups. And a lot of the pop-ups are hosted by the founder of the company. Her name's Rachel. But other people can host pop-ups as well. And so yours truly is hosting a pop-up in November. I know, I'm so excited. So if you want to come hang out, it's November 3rd to the 9th this year, 2020. Oh my gosh, I almost said 2026. 2025. And the pop-up is in Lisbon, which is our new home city. We have a tremendous agenda of stuff that we will be doing. But the cool thing about these pop-ups are you can take or leave whatever you want to do. So if you want to do every single activity on the agenda, go for it. If you want to do one thing a day or have a packed day and then a relaxy day, like whatever. Groups tend to kind of splinter off where, people who have a bunch of, elementary aged kids who want to go check out some new park, they all kind of make plans amongst themselves and go off and do that. It's super, super flexible. So there's kind of a coming together, and then there's a lot of flexibility that occurs as well. So if you're curious how these things run and all of that, come. I am holding an info session. The first one that I'm having is this week. So if you're listening right when this episode launches, it'll be June 12th at 7:30 p.m., but I will host others. So keep an eye on our social media, on our Patreon. Even as a free member, I post it. So follow us there if you're just looking for updates. But you can come and just pick my brain. Like, how do these things work? The pop-up itself, the early bird registration is only $140 because families organize their own accommodations and things like that. So to register for the pop-up is pretty inexpensive. And I think the early bird deadline ends July 15th, I want to say. There's a Facebook group for the pop-up. I'm going to load up all these different links and all this different info in the show notes below. So some fun opportunities to hang out in World School together if you are interested. So yeah, I would love to tell you more about it if you are keen. Come, happy to help. Amanda and I are both happy to help when it comes to figuring out how to world school and how we put it all together and the logistics and all that good kind of stuff. So all good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. It sounds so fun. We have a couple weeks planned in Mexico. We have a couple weeks planned in Bali, and I was looking for pop-up hubs. There are none in those places. And I was thinking like, man, I need to actually get to one of these and experience it myself in person so that maybe I can organize some occasionally because they're never the places that I'm going when I want them to be there. And I'm like, yeah, with all of my free extra time, I should totally become an organizer for these things, right? Like, well, we'll see. But in any event, your Lisbon one should be a lot of fun, and I'm excited to see the ones next year come together as well.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I have a couple of pretty big destinations planned for next year. And that's what it is, right? Is I'm like, there are places that we wanted to go. And so I'm like, well, let's do it with some friends. Like, it would be fun to kind of organize these things. And so I'm pretty excited about it. But yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
info in the show notes here. Come, I'll post it. It's even as a free member on Patreon, you can ask questions and tag me and stuff and whatever. And I'm happy to answer any questions. And there's a Facebook group set up for the pop-up, and you do not have to be registered to join the Facebook group. It's like I might be interested and I have questions kind of Facebook group. So I'll link that and you can come there and ask questions as well. I'm an admin in that group. So you're welcome to come over there and hang out as well. But yeah. So that pretty much wraps us up for today. We have a mantra that we always end with. Amanda, I feel like I've been yapping for too long. Do you want to do the mantra today?
Sure. I will do the mantra. All right. So here we go. We don't always get it right, but the words we choose today can shape how our kids see themselves tomorrow.
Yeah, like it. As Peggy O'Mara said, it becomes their inner voice. Thanks, Peggy.
Yep.
She nailed it. So thanks for tuning in today, and we hope you have an awesome rest of your day and happy homeschooling.
Yeah, have a great one.